This section of the sovereignty of God deals with God's sovereign control over death. And this is a hard one. I remember, I was going through a very difficult time in my life in 2002. Just philosophically having some struggles and some doubts. And I really was, I'd come to a place in my life where I was wondering if God even cared for me. And so I was going out for my jog that I would do about every other day out in the Pueblo West Desert. A friend of mine had allowed me to jog on his 1,000-acre ranch and really enjoyed it. It was a beautiful time out there. One day I went out there and was just really pouring my heart out before God and just weeping before Him and just praying, Lord, do whatever you have to do to show me you love me. Just make your love real to me. And 1 week later, we went to visit my parents in Sacramento. We got there on a Monday night, and the next morning, my dad was dead of a heart attack. Thanks, God. And then, 2 days after I gave the eulogy at his memorial service, I came down with a horrible, horrible sickness. Bacterial infection, uncontrollable spasms. Was hospitalized for about 3 weeks in a wheelchair, bedridden really for about 2 months, and in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks, and exploratory surgery. Really horrible time. But it took me a long time to get over my dad's death, and it was one of those relationships that it was a hard relationship, and there was a lack of closure when he died, and so it was difficult for me. And I struggled with God's sovereignty. I believed He was sovereign, and I knew that He took my dad's life, but it was hard for me to deal with it. And of course, we think, well, what about the loss of a child? Is God really in control of death? Well, let's see what the Scriptures say. And if you see something, if you see a Scripture that really makes you mad, please, your argument is not against me. Okay? Don't fight against me. The Scriptures are there. I'm showing you the Scriptures. I'm being faithful to show you the Scriptures. Fight against God, but don't fight against me. I'm not your problem. I'm not. I'm showing you who is your problem when you don't believe the God of the Bible. Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 39. Now see that I, even I, am He, and there is no God beside me. I kill, and I make alive. I wound, and I heal. Nor is there anyone who can deliver out of my hand. God says, I kill, and I make alive. 1 Samuel chapter 2, in Hannah's great prayer, when God had told her that she was going to give birth, the Lord kills and the Lord makes alive. He brings down to the grave and He brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and lifts up. He raises the poor from the dust and lifts the beggar from the ash heap to set them among princes, and makes them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's. He set the world upon them. He will guard the feet of His saints, but the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength no man shall prevail. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken in pieces. From heaven He will thunder against them. The Lord will judge the ends of the earth. He will give strength to His king and exalt the horn of His anointed. What does she say in her prayer? The Lord kills and the Lord makes alive. 1 Samuel 2, verse 6. Acts 17, verse 24 through 26. God, who made the world and everything in it, since He is Lord of heaven and earth, does not dwell in temples made with hands, nor is He worshipped with men's hands, as though He needed anything. Since He gives to all life, breath, and all things. The whole reason you breathe, the next breath, there, God gave it to you. And God could take away your breath this evening. And he could take away the breath of your relatives, your spouse, your child, your parent, your grandmother, your grandfather, your friend, your enemy. God controls all things. He gives to all life, breath, and all things. And he has made from one blood every nation of men to dwell on the face of the earth, and has determined their pre-appointed times and the boundaries of their dwellings. God has determined when you're going to die. And he's determined where you live. Wherever you live, wherever you were born, God determined it. That's Acts chapter 17, verse 26. God has determined when you're going to die. Stop worrying about when you're going to die and start rejoicing in Jesus Christ, the sovereign God of heaven and earth. Rejoice in him. Love him. Worship him. Stop worrying about death. God has appointed it. You will not die before his time, and you will not die after his time. It's a guarantee. God has determined the pre-appointed times and the boundary of your habitation. Job 14, since his days are determined, speaking of man, the number of his months is with you. You have appointed his limits so that he cannot pass. You know, you can take a lot of herbs and you can eat healthy, which I recommend because it sure helps you feel better. But if God has appointed you to die, like his own son, somewhere between the age of 30 and 33, you're going to die. It's just reality. Sometimes I think people think it's taboo to talk about this stuff. You will die. And on the day you die, that was God killing you. He says, I kill and I make alive. Hannah said, the Lord kills and he makes alive. Don't get mad at me. God takes our breath from us when he wants to. Now, this is probably the hardest part. And I'm going to devote a section to it, so continue listening. God controls evil. God controls evil. Join me on the next section.